Hello and welcome to the Radical Podcast, inspired by the essence of the word radical, proceeding from the root. We explore the roots of metaphysical wisdom.
This season is all about divination, tarot, and the power held within our intuition. This is The Radical with Nicole and Christina, the two metaphysical girls in the material world. Hello and welcome to The Radical. I'm Nicole.
And this is Christina.
Today's episode is the 8, 9, and 10 of Wands, the 3 minor arcana cards for Sagittarius. I'm really excited to get started. Christina has her list. And at the end of the episode today, I'm also super excited because I'm using the Wild Unknown Archetypes for the messages from the universe.
Such a cool deck with those round cards. That is a fun deck. I'm going to jump right into the list. Let's just get into it. Let's use that Sagittarius energy and that arrow with that direction and that fire energy just to get started. The card name, like Nicole said, this is the minor arcana, and they're called the 8, 9, and 10 of Wands. A quick talk about numerology, and then Nicole is going to go deeper into numerology. Yeah, she sure is. Just looked at the notes there. That 8, and these come from 3 different sources. I have three interpretations, 3 meanings of the 8 in numerology. Okay. The first one, 8, change. Second, ease, flow, and results appear. And 3, strong, healthy plants ripe for propagation. For the 9, first one, intensity. Second, you are getting what you want, fruition. And third, savoring the harvest. 10, culmination. The second, situation reaches its conclusion. And lastly, turning over for winter. That means the change, the end. The element is fire. Wands are fire. They symbolize energy, passion, action, creativity, inspiration, ambition, willpower, and also new beginnings. You'll see in one of my decks, the author uses acorns as a symbol of wands, as a symbol of that seed potential, new beginnings. We can also apply in our modern lives. This suit can relate to work, accomplishments, and the drive to achieve goals. This is also connected to our spirituality, intuition, in the realm of creative force of life. It represents our core desires of ourself, our soul. A lot of times people will say soul's desire for fire, for wands. It's a little to get us in the frame of mind as we continue in the 8, 9, and 10 of wands and that energy. The zodiac sign is Sagittarius, which is mutable fire. Its polarity is positive. The planets associated with each of those, the 8 of wands is Mercury in Sagittarius. The 9 of wands is Moon in Sagittarius. And the 10 of wands, Saturn in Sagittarius. We are going to have so much fun talking about all of these cards. I had like a roller coaster ride when I was doing my card comparison notes on the 10 of wands. It took me for a loop. I had all kinds of feelings coming out. The house is the 9th house. It's the house of Sagittarius and Jupiter. The mantra can be I see. And this is the house of direction, the house of purpose. To touch on the correspondences in the tree of life, the spheres associated with these 3 cards are located in the lower left, lower middle, and bottom 3 spheres. The 8 of wands is the sphere of Hod for Majesty. The 8 of wands is the sphere of Yesod, foundation. And the 10 of Wands is the sphere of Malkuth, kingdom. For chakra, I just totally felt solar plexus, not only because of the fire, but also because of will, discipline, and self-determination. We'll talk so much more about symbols and themes when we go into card comparison, but I wanted to talk about just a few of them right now. For the 8 of Wands, this is one in the Waite-Smith deck, the Rider Waite-Smith deck. This is one of only 2 cards that doesn't have a human in the depiction of it. And that is so that you will just see the energy and the action of the wands. The other one is the 3 of Swords, which has a very, very different story to it. And if you use this card for yes or no, this is a yes. I feel like the theme of this card is just movement. And then when you see these 3 cards together, you can't help but notice that clear blue sky. There's more sky in each of these 3 cards than there is land. And that clear blue sky means that there's no obstacles. Clear vision and truth. The 9 of Wands, change is stability. This is still it. This is still a yes card. Still a yes card. Some of the symbols here, we have the bandage, which can symbolize healing and past struggles. We all can relate to that as we do. The fence or the fortification, defense, fortification, but also resilience and vigilance can symbolize that. And again, clear blue sky, very little land. You're building this fence, but you know why you're doing it. You have a clear vision and no obstacles to what you're doing when you're building your fence in that 9 of Wands. Okay, 10 of Wands for yes and no. This one's a no. But I guess it truly depends on what the question is. Because your question is, should I take a break? And you pull this card, that was probably a yes. But do you know what I'm saying? Generally, this card is like, you should reassess what you're asking. Like, this card can be a no. The symbol of the bent back, immediately that makes us think of burden. Honestly, it's like the weight of the world. Whenever we see anything that is represented as a bowed human or even a bowed tree or a bowed, like even a fence that's kind of weighing under itself, that's what we think of, burdens and weights of the world. The way that the character is in the Rider Waite-Smith deck is the head is down and is not looking up and cannot see past the burdens. But still, there's a clear blue sky in this card. Clear blue sky, very little land, tiny little house. Even if you're carrying this burden, this card still feels kind of positive to me. Kind of, like, what your burdens are, I think, is what I would see because of that clear blue sky. Even though your head is down, the sky is not gray, it is not cloudy, it is not rainy, there's no jagged clouds. It is clear. You could feel the truth of these cards. There's still a lightness to them as I see it. Something to think about as you're looking at the cards in the Rider Waite-Smith deck. And then when we get into our cards, they definitely also have themes that we'll get into.
I wondered if weight of the world would come up in the 10 of Wands. And we'll get into this more in a moment, but this is Saturn in Sagittarius. So with Saturn, the major arcana card is the World. So
that's it. Yeah.
Okay. So for numerology, I'm not getting into the 8, 9, and 10 so much as I'm sharing a fun musing.
Well, I'm glad I went into 3 different versions of it then. There you go, listeners. Just go back and listen to that again.
So what I was contemplating with the numbers, my question is 9 the end of the story or is the 10? T. Susan Chang says, in her opinion, peak power resides in the 9, and in the 10, it overflows and collapses to begin anew, to begin again at the beginning of our mini heroes journey.
I can see that.
I can really see it with these cards. I think we see it in the 10 of Pentacles because we see all 3 generations depicted in that card. So you have the seed planted in the 10 and the beginning of the next story with the younger generation in that last card.
Yeah. I like how she says it either overflows or collapses, because you can see the 10s kind of either way.
So we'll just keep that in mind. This is our second time visiting the element of fire, going through the minor arcana. We started season 2 with the 5, 6, and 7 of wands. So the middle of the wand story in Leo.
Fixed fire.
Yes.
We went fixed fire, mutable fire, and we have to wait all the way to the spring to get to cardinal fire and Aries, right? And then we'll do 2, 3, 4.
Yes. So this story of the wands, we're picking up where the 5, 6, and 7 left off. And so in that episode, we said that that part of the story is of contention and adversity with the 5. The 6 brought us success and a sense of victory. And the 7 of wands, efforting to maintain what we achieved in the 6. The 8 of wands, Crowley's hermetic title for this card is the Lord of Swiftness. The planetary ruler, like Christina said, is Mercury, and therefore the corresponding planetary major arcana card is the Magician. Of course, all 3 of these cards being Sagittarius season cards, the corresponding zodiac major arcana card is Temperance. The 9 of wands for Sagittarius 2, the Lord of Strength, the planetary ruler, the moon, and the corresponding major arcana card, High Priestess. 10 of wands, Lord of Oppression. And like we've been mentioning, this one is Saturn, and the corresponding major arcana card is the World, the weight of the world. And Christina already brought up the arrow that symbolizes Sagittarius, and that's really perfect for the story that these cards are telling. T. Susan Chang says it this way: the speed, strength, and strike depicted in these cards form a picture of determination and deadly accuracy at a distance. If you think about a bow and arrow, the speed of an arrow and the strength it takes to kind of launch the arrow from the bow to reach its target and strike it is sort of a good way to remember the energy of these cards. So for the 8 of wands, decanical interpretation, you can think about the directness of Sagittarius and Mercury in its role as messenger, or the Jupiterian blessings of Sagittarius and the quickness of Mercury. And I want to read this little tiny part from 36 Secrets because it's an interesting kind of shadow of the 8 of wands that I found really relevant to our modern world. Okay, so she says, it is true that there is a dark side to the acceleration of delivery and communication. Warehouse workers enduring modern day wage slavery the polarization of discourse, the spread of hate speech, and the loss of competition. We should not forget that Mercury is a god of deception, and he is, in fact, in detriment in Jupiter's realms. So that is a really good point that Mercury is, in fact, in detriment in Sagittarius, and that is the potential shadow that this card, especially in reverse, could possibly bring to the table.
I'm over here giggling because when we were just in Samhain season, I was reading a lot of information about Persephone and the her going into the underworld. And one of the stories I read, it talked about Mercury's role in that, and they called him the ultimate sycophant to
Yeah.
Jupiter, in the way that he was like, on call, let me do this, let me go meddle, let me go tell Hades or Pluto that she's got to come back. That just reminded me of that shadow side, is that yes, a lot of times Mercury, Hermes, is the god of just like, I'm going to deliver all these messages, but he's delivering all the messages, not all the good ones either. But he was called the ultimate sycophant.
Well, we have
Am
that
I?
saying, don't shoot the messenger. But
Yeah.
if you have to deliver bad news, you might figure out like a way to spin it so that the person receiving the message doesn't get angry at you. And when you said sycophant, it made me think of ChatGPT.
Yeah.
How
Well,
ChatGPT will kind of tell us what it thinks we want to
yes.
hear
Yes.
so that we
Yes.
continue engaging
Yes.
with it and hopefully buy that subscription.
Yeah. There is an element to, I can see that because we talk about the Eight of Wands, speed, direction, action, but also temper that with understanding just what you said in that quote, that things are happening fast and not all those fast things are good things.
Yeah, so I appreciated that perspective in that book.
Yeah.
For the Nine of Wands, I think I say this further down in my notes, but I'm going to say it now. This to me feels like, we've talked about the little tower or the mini tower for the Five of Cups and the little Empress for the Nine of Pentacles. The Nine of Wands to me feels like the little Temperance card. Like the energy feels very similar.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
this could be the tempered resilience of Sagittarius paired with the adaptability of the moon. T. Susan Chang says tensile strength depends not on hardness or toughness, but elasticity to stretch or expand under pressure. And this made me think of, in Qigong, there's a movement set called the Shaolin Sinew Changes. And I remember my teacher describing this set saying it gives you the kind of strength where you're not like big muscle strong, but it's the way that like a carpenter can pick up a 2x4 with one hand.
Mm-hmm.
So not like a
And
bodybuilder, but you just have this strength and like your bones and your sinews and your tendons.
it's funny you mentioned that about the different kinds of strength. In the army, we used to call it the difference between show muscle and go muscle. That sometimes if you were
Oh,
too like overly developed, you couldn't move as quickly and agilely as somebody who was actually like made for like going, like doing the job. So it's like show
yes.
muscle and go muscle.
Yes. And my last note is sort of like that. It's almost like strength you cannot see.
Yeah.
Speaking of like the sinew and tendon strength. It's not like outwardly visible the way show muscles are. And I'm watching this show on Netflix, and one of the characters is like of new money. It's like
Mm-hmm.
1800s England, and his grandfather was a blacksmith. And he says something like, I think actually having that ancestry and working so hard to have the social position I have now shows that I have sinew.
Mm.
I hadn't heard sinew used like that before. And I was like, oh, that's perfect because I'm talking about that
Yeah.
word in this episode. That is the Nine of Wands. For the Ten of Wands, we can think about Jupiterian expansiveness of Saturn. Of Sagittarius. The Jupiterian expansiveness of Sagittarius and the limits and boundaries of Saturn.
Mm-hmm.
And this card can remind us that knowing our limits and boundaries is actually a strength and not a weakness, and that we may actually feel weak when we push past our own limits. And this could make us feel worn down. And then one other one would be the obsession of the Sagittarian shadow, and then Saturn in his role as taskmaster. So this could be the energy of obsessing over results, working too hard, approaching burnout, or maybe
Mm.
in burnout and like trying to push through anyway. And Christina talked about in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck how the figure's head is down, and in front of his head there's the 10 wands. So it's like double obstruction of his
Mm-hmm.
view. So do we even see the direction we're moving? Do we see the direction of Sagittarius's arrow? Do we know where we're going anymore? Or
Mm-hmm.
has the obsession with the end goal just kind of obfuscated our view?
Mm-hmm.
And are we remembering to balance our elements and factor in the laws of spiritual success? And this is a fire sign, a fire element card, but we have to remember that fire needs air to breathe and to
Oh,
burn effectively.
sure
So if we're
does.
all fire, that's not necessarily the most effective way to go about things. We remember how important it is to balance our elements. Okay, card comparison. I'm not talking about all of my cards this time.
Okay.
I'm being a little different.
You do you.
For the 8 of Wands, what really stuck out to me from my 4 decks was the card from the Zodiac Tarot, because there is a person in this
Yeah.
depiction of the 8 of Wands. The figure is wearing boots with Mercury's
Yes.
wings on them, and it appears that she's like running with the wands. For the 9 of Wands, I loved the depiction in my Mystic Mondays deck. There's a figure and she's facing away from us. And in front of her, she's constructed this boundary wall, not unlike the Rider-Waite-Smith deck of the 8 wands. In the 9th wand, she's holding behind her back. And my impression of this is she's almost in like a fighter like or a martial type stance.
Hmm.
It looks like maybe she's skilled in defensive type arts. And to me, this picks up on the moon energy, the adaptability of the moon. It shows that this figure is able to defend herself in multiple ways and from multiple angles. So I really enjoyed the Mystic Mondays card. And then for the 10 of Wands, in the Zodiac Tarot, we have a figure carrying 10 wands, but what's so different is her head is lifted and she's carrying the wands in such a way that she can see the path ahead. This card to me shows a lot more ease than its Rider-Waite-Smith counterpart. It's like she's out gathering firewood and there's this like ease, and it's not this awkward way of carrying the wands. In my Antique Anatomy tarot deck, we have 10 rods, which is what the suit is renamed to. And I believe in this 10 of Wands card, we have yellow iris flowers, which kind of ties back to the Temperance card. However, the flowers are behind the 10 rods in such a way that I think visually conveys a sense of oppression, which this card is the Lord of Oppression. It's almost like the flowers are behind prison bars. And lastly, in my Mystic Mondays card, we have a figure carrying 10 wands on her back under the heat of the sun. She's bent over, carrying the wands, and her eyes are looking down at the ground. So this conveyance of burden and heaviness and intensity. And I think that's very much in line with the energy of the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And those are the cards I chose to talk about.
Okay, for my card comparison, starting with the Eight of Wands, the Spirit Song tarot deck, the author has chosen the eel as the spirit animal of that card, and the two keywords of energy and results. I looked up an eel as a spirit animal, and it represents resilience, transformation, and adaptability. Eels can live in both freshwater and saltwater. They can survive in murky water, and they can do long migrations. I didn't know any of these things about eels. The author wrote, "The eel will help charge you with energy as you move toward the fulfillment of your goal. Let enthusiasm lead the way as you make the most of your opportunities." And that's the eel for the Eight of Acorns. I don't know if I said acorns or wands, but in the Spirit Song, they're called acorns. In the Wild Unknown, the Eight of Wands, two keywords: sudden movement or change. It has a picture of 8 wands aligned in a circle with all their tips pointing in. One of the wands is channeling a bolt of lightning down into the center where the wands are. This is to me, it's like it's energizing the wands. It's like clear focus. Where the wands are pointed in the center is very clear and the rest of the card is very dark. It draws your attention to that point of focus. For the Secret of the Witch's Garden, it's the Eight of Wands. The keyword is speed. There's a witch seated on the ground, and we're looking at her as we are above her, looking down at her. Seated on the ground in a lavender dress, she has 8 torches that she is sending up towards the sky in a spiral pattern. Those torches, like her intentions, her manifestations, her wishes, her dreams, her soul's desire. She's sending them out into the world, but her eyes are closed, her palms are upraised, and it feels to me that she is very much in charge of this releasing of her intentions. The background of that whole card is this gorgeous indigo blue. I love that card. Do I want to say anything else about that card? No. Okay. And then in the Sacred She, This card is called 8, self-confidence. There is a figure doing a dive through literal hoops of fire. How often have we felt like jumping through hoops? And it looks to me like a female. It looks to me that she is naked as well for openness. Nakedness is purity, pure potential and pure purpose. But the figure is literally diving through hoops of fire, but is diving towards a golden key. And what does that golden key represent? Whatever it needs to represent for you. Is that your goals, your dreams, your hopes, your wishes, your manifestations, the key to open up the next phase of your story, whatever it might be. But this reminds me so much about Olympic divers. Do you ever watch the Olympic divers on those high platforms?
Mm-hmm.
To me, the thought of diving headfirst into water is so brave. So you have to be so confident. You have to practice so hard. That to me made me feel like this figure is tempered. She's honed. She's done the work. She's got the confidence. She knows what she's doing. She knows where she's going. And she's going to leap right through those hoops of fire because she's focused on getting that key. She's focused on that goal. That's kind of how I feel in that card when I look at it.
One of my guidebooks calls the Eight of Wands a snapshot of motion. And I think that's a really nice, like, that's what this card is. It's like this still, this capturing of motion, but it's like one frame, just one frame.
Okay, for the 9 of Wands, in the Spirit Song Tarot deck, it's called the 9 of Acorns. It's the Panther. 2 keywords, power and perseverance. The Panther, symbol of fierce power, courage, and confidence. Most large, big cats are. This is fearlessness, inner strength. Panthers are solitary animals. There's an encouragement to be independent, self-reliant, but the courage to move forward alone when necessary. And then also when we did the podcast talking about, I don't remember what it was, but I went off on a tangent about the goddesses and lions. That lions throughout history have had a lot to do with guardianship, guardians, guards, and guardianship, and protection and guidance. You look back on the spirit animal and the guide and the totem of a panther can mean all of those things or just a few depending on what you need. But the panther in this case, in the 9 of Acorns, I can see absolutely how that would fit in this, because there is that element of you building your fence, you persevering, you moving forward when you're ready. But panther, and I love big cats too. Those were my favorite animals when I was younger. And probably still, what I mean when I'm younger, they're still my favorite animals right now. Some of my favorite animals. But also mystery, intuition, transformation, and rebirth with the Black Panther specifically. Those are kind of unique to the Black Panther. For the Wild Unknown 9 of Wands, keywords are strength, stamina, and confidence. Here there's 9 logs or planks of wood arranged. To me, it looks like a staircase. The bottom of the card is very dark. It lightens as it gets up towards the top of the card. And at the top of the staircase, I see staircase, is a waning crescent moon. The waning crescent moon, you can look up the phases of the moon and see if that moon specific phase symbolizes to you and your question. The wood making the staircase has a lot of twigs and stems coming off of it. It doesn't look like it'd be very easy to traverse the staircase up or down. Maybe I made the staircase as a way to protect me, or maybe I have to travel up or down the staircase. I don't know. It depends on how you look at this card in your reading. For the Secrets of the Witch's Garden, the 9 of Wands, the keyword here is daring. A witch is taking a knee along the border of lit torches that she has arranged into a fence. She's holding one in her hand. She's got a cut on her face. She's got a rip on the sleeve of her blouse. Her shoes and her pants are all scuffed up. I have felt like this witch so many times in my life. You know how you ever hear the phrase like take a knee, take a break? Like she's been through it, been kind of, beaten up a little bit by life and by responsibilities and by everything. But her face is uplifted. Her face is still, she looks very relaxed and she looks very determined. I think the illustrator did a fantastic job in sending the message of this card. One note, on one side of the fence of torches, that side, the trees are barren. It's still got that beautiful indigo midnight blue sky. And it's a little bit thorny and a little bit barren on that side, but on the other side of the fence, there's green grass. There's flowers blooming. There's little sparks of light, those little like fireflies or little sparks of light. You can see that as what you're protecting or what you're holding in, or, marking your territory or your boundaries, whatever it might be. But the imagery here tells a lot. If that card comes up in your reading, you just look at it and just look at it before you read about what it means and see how it makes you feel. I think that's the other thing with tarot cards is that's why I love doing the card comparison, because we can just talk about like what it is, what it looks like, and how do we feel when we look at it. Which leads us to the sacred sheet. Number 9 is resistance. There's a bricked wall with the outline of a human form in the bricks, or is it on the bricks? Is it the shadow, or is it in the bricks? I see this as like, are you becoming the wall? Are you the wall? You're not just maintaining a wall anymore. Have you become the wall? Have you become rigid, inflexible? Have you bricked yourself into a corner where you can't change your mind anymore, or you can't maneuver anymore? Do you know what I mean? When I see this card, that's what I think. But they've called it resistance. Does that mean that you're super resistant to something? I saw it as being rigid, being locked in. But listeners, you may see it as something very different.
Especially with the arms crossed.
Yes.
Very closed off energy.
Yes. I see it as you've put yourself in a corner and you can't change your mind anymore. But that's kind of where I am as I'm looking at the card. Listeners, when you look at that card, you might see it as like, I am so strong. I built up this wall. This is my boundary to protect myself. It could mean something different.
I think the 9 of Wands brings up vigilance, and then the shadow aspect of the 9 of Wands, which this is a shadowy figure on this card. So it's the interplay of vigilance and hypervigilance.
Yes. That you have such incredible boundaries that you have bricked yourself into a corner and you can't maneuver anymore. We don't want that to happen. We want to be safe and protected, but we don't want to be unable to move. Moving on to the 10 of Wands. For the spirit song, 10 of Acorns, the author chose the donkey. Keywords: responsibility and dedication. The donkey symbolizes humility, strength, perseverance. It can carry heavy burdens. It does work very diligently, but it has an element of grace. It does have self-preservation qualities of stubbornness. Seems like donkeys can be very opinionated and have like a sense of like themselves. But also as a spiritual animal or as a spirit guide, quiet wisdom, patience, and courage as well, but allowing you to stand your ground. This is trust your intuition. There is an element about donkeys and self-care, and advises you not to take on too much. Because I think if you overload a donkey, it will just stop. That if you put too much weight on it, it will just stop working. You have to remove the weight until the donkey's like, okay, I'll do that. And then it will start moving again. That's
Fair enough.
yeah. That's a good choice there for the 10 of acorns, the donkey. For the wild unknown 10 of wands, keywords burdens, blockage, and difficulty. This is a very dark card, not a lot of light in it at all. The 10 wands are all jumbled up. It feels like the wands are on top of you or in front of you or all around you. No light is coming through. You can't see past them. It absolutely feels oppressive. I feel a lot of pressure when I look at this card. Essentially when I look at this card, there's like no way out. Yeah, I don't see any way out of that card. Maybe if you had a match, you could burn it all to the ground. Maybe that's how you would get out of that one. In the Secrets of the Witch's Garden, the 10 of Wands, the keyword is culmination. This has just the smallest echo to the Rider-Waite-Smith card in that it's a human figure carrying the 10 wands, but the author in the illustrated has reimagined it into a witch using the wands as her lighted torches. She's got a packed bag, she's got a spirit guide fox next to her foot, and she has a child with her. She is going on a journey. This reminds me of what you said about the decans and how the 9 is the completion of the journey and the 10 is something else. That's what this tells me, is that this 10 of wands card and this hero's journey is starting something different. That's what this card says to me. The sky is that beautiful indigo. Though those 3 cards from the Secrets of the Witch's Garden have the same time of day in the cards, that indigo midnight blue sky, which I love. There's a nice theme running through them. But yeah, take a look at that card, and that's a really, like, the author chose, I think, to use this card as the start of something new for that 10 in the 10 of the wands minor arcana journey. For the sacred sheet, 10 is overload. A single figure is holding a huge boulder over its head. The boulder is on fire. It looks like it's made of multiple elements. Now, the figure could go ahead and put this boulder down at any minute. The figure is choosing to hold it overhead, but it can also choose to put it down. That's what I think of when I see this card.
Similar to the Rider-Waite-Smith deck in that the way in which the figure is holding the boulder is like very awkward, not using the body in such a way to like intelligently hold that weight. It's like very awkward. It's not ergonomic. Like you're gonna get hurt.
Yeah, but also just put it down. I think the figure can just put it down if it wants to. It's a choice.
Yes.
Okay, those are my cards.
Perfect. So we will go through and kind of summarize some meanings, interpretations of these cards. The 8 of Wands, we have quickness, swiftness, suddenness, incoming news, messages, developments. This card conveys movement and action. The 9 of Wands, as the famous Kelly Clarkson would say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Thank you for laughing at that.
I love that song.
It is a great song. This card conveys tenacity and persistence, as well as vigilance and readiness. One of my guidebooks says this card is about understanding fear and the power of our experience. It's about enduring adversity and changing it into opportunity. And to me, that's why, in my mind, I've started calling it the little Temperance card. I think thematically they share a lot of meaning and themes. The 10 of Wands is about pushing through, backbreaking, striving, and maybe even chasing task completion for the sake of completing the task. It's kind of workaholic energy, trying to do too much at once, being overloaded, overwhelmed, and burned out. And this is a Saturn card. And I really loved this from 36 Secrets. She says Saturn is the master of the hourglass and will take all the time you offer him and more. Play by his rules and schedule the downtime. And I just have one little note here. In this minor arcana story, I can see how the Nine of Wands is sort of the peak energy, and how in the 10, the energy is collapsing. To me, it's pretty like literal, like it's bearing down on you. Reversals, Eight of Wands. This could be too much speed, rushing around, being frantic, being hasty, losing control, a scattered focus. So in the Eight of Wands, all the wands are moving in the same direction. So scattered, like wands going in different directions. And it can also be delayed or canceled plans. The Nine of Wands, too isolated, too self-protected, closed off to the outside world, hypervigilance, or being caught off guard and surprised. And finally, the Ten of Wands in reversed, playing the martyr, for being burdened and busy, not trusting other people to do the job, so you do it yourself. So you take on too much, or perhaps you are dumping things onto other people, maybe creating a Ten of Wands scenario for them. It does bring up this idea of delegating, observing our limits and boundaries, and doing things to feel less pressure.
In the Secrets of the Witch's Garden, the author has put questions to write the reversal. If you get this card in reverse and you're just kind of very resistant to the card, these are questions that you can ask to help yourself get more clarity. For the Eight of Wands, how can I approach this differently? For the Nine of Wands, how can I change my course? And then for the Ten of Wands, how can I help those who depend on me? Might help you focus some of the burden we carry, really thinking about how can I help those who depend on me? Kind of do an inventory of what we're actually carrying and why we're carrying it, right? I did a leap of assumption when Nicole asked me if I knew what my moon card was. And it turns out my leap of assumption was correct. My moon is in 0 degrees of Sagittarius. So that means it's in the first decan, which is the Eight of Wands. That is my moon card. But all three of these cards are Sagittarius. And I'm moving a lot closer as I'm in this phase of my life. I'm moving a lot closer into my moon energy. I feel like my intuition and my inner world. So I feel a strong connection to these three cards. I really like these three cards. When they come forward, I feel like I'm comforted by them. They feel like they're my friends. These three cards feel like I have other cards that are not my friends, but these three are my friends. At least I understand them really well. When one of these cards comes up in a reading, I know what it's what it is trying to tell me, or what it's telling me to focus on. I had this thought in my head, we should make a chart with all of our birth chart cards in it. Our sun card, moon card, Mercury card. Like we should do. I bet you someone has like a spread for that.
My Saturn is in 3 degrees of Sagittarius, so the Eight of Wands represents my Saturn placement.
We share one thing in common in our birth charts, the Eight of Wands. My moon card and your Saturn card.
All right, so I have 3 messages from the universe. If you want to choose card 1, 2, or 3. And the first card is 24, the sustainer, the peacemaker, the upholder, the preserver. The sustainer, the second archetype in the trio of existence, works behind the scenes, tending to the tasks of life. They cultivate gardens, pay bills, keep the meals warm, and the mouths sweetly fed. The sustainer is at peace in the process of life, knowing there is no start or finish to humble yet meaningful tasks. They have a natural inclination to nourish others, to achieve, to preserve Earth's resources, to consider environmental impact, to see their role in the divine cycle of life. It's common for the sustainer to become overworked, leading to resentment. Their tasks aren't glamorous, and therefore the sustainer rarely receives the credit or attention. The sustainer longs to hold things in place so badly, especially relationships, that they resist necessary change. Take time with this archetype. It is within us all and needs our love. When light, abundant, generous, supportive, reliable. When dark, overworked, resentful, trapped, and tired. Sounds a little 10 of Wands. Okay, our second card, the Pilgrim, card number 20. The Wanderer, the Traveler, the Apprentice. Very Sagittarius.
I was going to say.
For the Pilgrim, an outward journey is always an inward journey. This archetypal wanderer seeks wisdom, experience, and meaning in the farthest reaches of the globe and the deepest regions of the spirit. Others will wonder when the pilgrim will settle down and claim a more conventional life, but the pilgrim knows that the heart belongs in motion. Where there is motion, there is freedom, expansion, and growth. Responsibilities, social conventions, and logistics lull us to sleep, and soon the pilgrim becomes veiled in the slumber of the day-to-day. Yet when this archetype awakens, it rallies our sense of adventure and leads us out the door towards a new reality. With the pilgrim at your side, you will never lack courage, nor do you need every amenity. Travel light, travel soon. Your spirit needs it. When light learns, grows, adapts, and studies. When dark, aloof, non-committal, flaky. And our third and final card is 34, the river. The stream, the flow, the current. There is a reason so many rituals of change and rebirth take place in the river. It is forgiveness embodied in physical form. Without asking anything in return, the river washes away what is no longer necessary, smoothing over sharp edges and accepting all our mistakes and grievances. Once we step in, we are no longer in control. The river carries us farther down the stream of transformation than we planned to go. Its waters have a special gift for reflecting back to us a new and dreamlike vision. Once the tears have passed, we see ourselves as we haven't before, with a little more lightness, grace, and fluidity. Keep in mind, the you that stands within the river is the real you, full of deep emotion and potential. Nothing to hide, nothing to judge. May you drink in the sight of your true self. When light, acceptance, grace, reflection, forgiveness. When dark, torment of emotions, flooding, and overwhelm. Thank you, universe.
Thank you, universe.
And we'll be back next week to talk about Jupiter. So until then, listeners, thank you, and we love you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode. The Radical Podcast is created and produced by Nicole and Christina.
Music by Van Horton. His Instagram is Van Horton Music. Stay in touch with us at linktr.ee/theradicalpodnc.